BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, May 15th, 2017. Some people right now are thinking that President Donald Trump is at war with the FBI. Some people are thinking that President Donald Trump wants to go to war with the Middle East, nations like Syria, or maybe the Far East, nations like North Korea. However, what many people are overlooking, and by many people, in reference to what they're telling you on CNN, what they're telling you on MSNBC, and what they're telling you on Fox News, because they're no angels either, what they're not telling you is that it's all done for profit. Just to go over a few figures. We have the small figures beginning, such as $16 million spent on the mother of all bombs dropped in Afghanistan. That's nothing in comparison to $83 million for 53 Tomahawk missiles that were shot at a runway in Syria. Okay, just looking at some numbers like that, 16 million, 83 million, that does not even scratch the surface of what the military-industrial complex is all about. What about the FBI? What about the CIA? What about the nuclear weapons? And yes, the FBI is involved with the military-industrial complex because they are partially responsible for conflict. Definitely conflict management. Not as much as the CIA, but we'll get into that. What does the United States government spend on the FBI every year? Their annual budget is listed at $8.3 billion. That's nothing in comparison to these small attacks in Syria and Afghanistan. $8.3 billion. What is the annual budget of the CIA? As previously mentioned, they are more responsible for their role in for-profit warring. What is the annual budget of the CIA? $15 billion a year. The amount of money that is pumped into these ridiculous and unnecessary conflicts is astronomical. And more importantly, the amount that just goes into planning them. Between the FBI and the CIA together, the United States government has allocated $23 billion every year. Every single year. From the Nuclear Threat Initiative. How much do we spend on nuclear weapons every year? From 2010 to 2018, the United States government spent $179 billion on nuclear weapons that were not used. And during the next 10 to 20 years, the predictions are that this is going to get worse. This is a bulletin from a place called the Nuclear Threat Initiative located in Washington, D.C. Due to the aging of the current force and plans to replace each leg of the nuclear triad, land and submarine-based missiles, and bomber-delivered nuclear weapons, costs for the nuclear mission are expected to grow substantially to approximately $500 billion over the next 20 years. Think about how much money is being poured into this. Think about how much money people are making in the arms business. To anyone who believes that the military-industrial complex is not a real thing, you have another thing coming to you. The CIA goes around the world and starts these conflicts, and then people buy weapons, and then the U.S. says that they need to build up their arsenal in the case of a global threat, and money is just going in and out. $15 billion to the CIA alone. Now we're going to have $500 billion going for nuclear weapons, which will probably be never used. Unbelievable. I want to ask you, and this is the whole point, how could the United States people use that $500 billion in another way? How could the United States use $15 billion in another way? How could they use $8.3 billion in another way? All of this money that is going for wars which are unnecessary, which are problematic and which are often caused by the CIA. And if you're thinking that this doesn't make any sense, it makes perfect sense to them, to the profiteers, to the warmongers, and of course to the puppets and the puppet masters that are working in the federal government. Do you think that Donald Trump is actually behind any of this? Do you think he's some type of brilliant mastermind who wants to throw up the defense budget? Yes, he's the one who wanted $53 billion annual increase in military spending. Do you think that was his idea? Or was that the idea of somebody else who's affiliated with the arms industry? You be the judge. How could the United States people use $54 billion? How could they use $500 billion? Think about how much could be achieved if that were brought to the domestic homeland as opposed to building up a nuclear arsenal, which will probably just never be used. The military-industrial complex is real. It sucks the life and the money out of the United States government. And when people are paying their taxes, there's a reason why the people are protesting and why they are angry and why they are up in arms, because all of your tax dollars are going to places which you have no say in. Is this not taxation without representation? When you're filing your income tax, are you really wanting to contribute to some type of military-industrial complex that is making people in the arms companies richer and completely ignoring what's happening on Main Street? $500 billion will be spent on nuclear weapons over the next 20 years. $500 billion, $500 billion. These industries are extremely profitable. There's a reason why people are doing this. There's a reason why people are going after this type of pathway. It's because of the money. It's because of the financial gain. It's because of profiteering. What is the solution that we need here? How are we going to end for-profit wars? What do the American people have to do to get rid of this sickening disease that is destroying the earth and destroying the lives of so many people? Do you want your family member to go across the ocean to fight a war that doesn't need to be fought and die? Do you want your family member to get their legs blown off in a country where a war should never have happened, in a place where the CIA probably started the conflict to begin with? The CIA, $15 billion a year. During the 4 years of Trump's administration, that will be $60 billion. One presidential administration, the CIA has a budget of $60 billion. How could that money be used to help people on the American homeland? Or even if you're one of those people who wants to go into the world, how could that money be used for global solutions? How could that money be used to make a difference? $60 billion on the CIA alone. That's the amount of money that it takes for them to run around and do things such as building tunnel networks in Afghanistan and claiming it on ISIL. That's what they have to do to go into places like Libya and destabilize the region. That's what they had to do in the past, such as overthrowing democratically elected governments and installing some puppet of whatever. That's what it costs, $15 billion a year to wreak havoc upon the earth. That's the question. What could be a better use? What can we do to make the world a better place?